So the first general principle is always empower, never disempower. So, I've learned this as a parent, but anyone that works with kids has probably learned to have this experience, right? You say, do you want to put your shoes on? And they say, no. And now we're in a power struggle versus creating a sense of empowerment by even saying, like, what shoes do you want to wear? Do you want to wear the elephant ones or the pink sparkly ones or whatever kind of shoes you're into? What vegetable do you want to eat? Broccoli or carrots? Or you get to choose whichever one you want. There's a lot of research that demonstrates that actually improving a student's perceived ability to shape their environment or their locus of control improves their perceived ability to cope with adversity. Now, a lot of times when we're dealing with power struggles in the classroom, there are often opportunities for a student to feel in control. But the more helpless, dependent, and incompetent a student feels, especially if they're experiencing trauma, the worse the symptoms will become. Now, thinking about right now, I think there's a lot of language that we're using in social media or even just in the regular media that I think can be very disempowering. And I was very careful when avoiding language that disempowers. Things like trapped, stuck, forced to stay home. Those verbs are very, very disempowering for a student that otherwise feels extremely out of control of their own environment. So instead, you try and focus on steps they can take, ideas to help others, give choices around the structure of the day, ways to indicate their need for a break, ways to indicate readiness for learning, whatever that might be. But this idea that you're always creating opportunities to empower students. So here's a slight modification of an actual event that occurred. So Mike, a 10th grader, walked into Miss Wilson's class wearing his hat. She politely asked him to take his hat off. He refused. She asked with more firmness. The hat remained. She demanded he take his hat off. The thoughts raced through her head. I'm going to show this disrespectful kid he isn't messing with me in my class. Okay, so we've been in this situation before. Immediately, they're in a public power struggle, right? So nobody can back down without experiencing some kind of shame and disempowerment, right? There's really not a win that can occur. Now, what actually ended up happening in this situation was that the teacher eventually collected herself, and she actually thought, well, why might this be so important to Mike? So she asked the class to get working on something and some independent work. She asked Mike to please come up and talk to her privately. And she asked him why the hat was so important. And he said that he was temporarily in foster care, and his hat was the only connection he had with his mother at the moment. And so she explained the rules, and she understood why the hat was so important, even though she felt it was disrespectful. So she said, listen, I'm going to give you some options. I'd really prefer you take the hat off, but I can keep it in a drawer in my desk for you and lock it. We can keep it somewhere else in the classroom and keep it safe, and you can decide where that goes. I'll give you a pass, and you can bring it back to your locker, or you can put it in your bag. If you demand to put it on, I'll ask that you sit with me up at my desk for the rest of the class, and then we can talk about it more a little later. And so, the student eventually said, I'll just put it in my bag. But by empowering that student and giving them some say and locus of control, it actually mitigated the situation extremely well.